Let us pray. For the message we are about to receive, we give thanks, O Lord. Bless our academy and our families. Favor the aspirations of our nation. Protect the men and women here who are our freedom. Amen.
Take seats!
We declare. It is my great pleasure this morning to introduce our Norman P. Blake Family Distinguished Speaker, a combat-decorated, retired Navy SEAL officer, whose impressive career was launched from a most unlikely place, the United States Air Force Academy, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in 1992 before accepting an inter-service transfer and cross-commissioning into the United States Navy. He spent more than 25 years in the Navy, and most of those years were in the SEAL teams. He served throughout Europe, Pacific, Africa, and the Middle East. After 2 commanding officer tours, he was selected to work in the U.S. Special Operations Command, Budget Acquisitions and Assessments Office to help guide the command's $12.3 billion annual budget. Later, he was selected for the director position for the U.S. Special Operations Command, Preservation of the Force and Family Task Force. This special team synchronizes psychological, human performance, family, and spiritual resources throughout the entire Special Operations Command for some 70,000 personnel. His military decorations include the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Bronze Star, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and various unit and service decorations. Our speaker and his wife, Katie, are raising 3 children, Sean, who is 16, Ryan, 14, and Meg, who is 11. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Captain John W. Doolittle.
Good morning, Riverside. Good morning, Good morning, Riverside. Good morning, That's a little better. All right, good. Let's see here. Okay. That was a great introduction. I've never been introduced like that before. I think it's important, especially kicking this off with a prayer, that you all understand the 2 most important things in my life. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today in the next half hour, but the 2 most important things in my life are my faith in God and my family. So for you guys to start this off with a prayer, I applaud you. Thank you very much. That's good. Now for this talk, I want you to read that slide, and I want you to absorb that. Because if you remember nothing else from the next 30 minutes of your life, I want you to remember that. Winners never quit. Ever. And we're going to talk about a lot of how that might apply to different things. I'll talk a little bit about how it applied to me over the last 25 years. But that's a key message. You guys are at the beginning of something amazing. You might be at the end of your time at Riverside, but it's the beginning of an incredible chapter. Whether you go into the military or not, there's all kinds of things you can do with your life. And in my opinion, based on my experience, it starts with that. So we'll talk about a couple things. I'll walk you through the SEAL teams, kind of the organization of it, a little bit about the training. I'll talk to you about some of my experiences, but most importantly, I want to talk with you all about a few things that I've learned along the way. Okay, you can't have any kind of military briefing without an org chart, okay, an organizational chart. And I don't want to go into too many of the details of Special Operations Command, but you all need to understand where I came from was the Naval Special Warfare component. So every service in the Department of Defense has a Special Operations component. I was in the Navy's component. It's about 2,600 people. That's less than 1% of the Navy, and that's the officers and enlisted. I think the breakup ends up being about 2,300 enlisted, 300 officers. People talk about SEAL training a lot. There's books, there's movies, TV shows, and all this stuff. I'll tell you that a lot of that media that's out there sensationalizes a lot of what goes on at SEAL training. I just want to kind of walk you through a little bit of the reality of it. It's definitely not all fun and games, but it can be fun, and it's an impressive event. It takes about 6 months, and then you roll into advanced training after BUDS and end up going to a SEAL team. That is showing a part of first phase, and we'll talk about each of the 3 phases. There's 3 phases at BUDS. The first phase is designed to expose, well, it's really designed to weed out people that don't want to be there. And all of BUDS exposes you to all the various components of mobility. So you have surface mobility like this. You have subsurface, SEAL delivery vehicles, combat swimmer, air mobility. You work with helicopters, you work with fixed wing aircraft, you jump out of aircraft, you do airborne insertions, you do free fall parachuting, you do high altitude, high opening parachuting, you do high altitude, low opening parachuting. Everything under the sun with the air. You do land mobility, whether it's high tech, reinforced armored vehicles, all the way to marching around with heavy rucksacks, which you guys do right here. By the way, I saw your obstacle course today. Sergeant Major showed that to me. That's awesome. Everybody does that as you're within the first couple months of being here, right? All right, good, good. And you guys got a couple records with it, I understand. That's awesome. Okay, so first phase is designed to weed out people that maybe aren't cut out for SEAL training, or maybe don't want to be there, or maybe they're there for the wrong reasons. I call it negative reinforcement. We started in my class with 155 people, and almost immediately those numbers start going down, 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 down. The first phase, a lot of the time, you're cold, wet, and miserable. You're in the water a lot, you're running a lot, you're swimming a lot. A lot of guys get there and they don't realize what they signed up for, and they end up ringing the bell. So when it's time to leave BUDS, when you've decided you've had enough, you ring this bell 3 times, and that's it. Then you leave, never to come back. Now some guys get hurt, broken arm, broken leg, what have you. They can get medically rolled back to another class. I think it's safe to say that the majority of the people that show up at BUDS were not maybe ready for the cold, wet, miserable piece. That picture in the middle on the bottom right there, right before you get in the combat swimmer tank on the upper left, everybody's got to take a shower and get cleaned off, right? Well, you go in that shower, that thing's ice cold, and they keep you in there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You never know how long you're going to be in there. And sometimes they'll stay in there until somebody quits. So first phase is just designed to get rid of the people upstairs that mentally are not ready for that kind of training. Hell Week is part of first phase. The 4th week of first phase, starting Sunday night, and it goes all the way until Saturday afternoon. So it's really more like a 6-day Hell Week. The students get between a half hour and an hour and a half of sleep over the course of all 6 days. And the reason we put guys through Hell Week is you learn a lot about each other, and you learn a lot about yourself when you've been sleep deprived. It's tough. And the majority of the guys in our class quit during Hell Week. And I don't know where this picture came from. That's actually my class right there. And that tall, good-looking guy under the boat on the right-hand side, that's yours truly. That's boat number 1. And everything you do in first phase of buds, you do in boat crews. So it's small team leadership, okay? And what you learn very quickly, whether you're in Hell Week or in any other part of SEAL training, you can't do any of it alone. None of it. As a matter of fact, anybody that shows up at that training as an individual, and we had semi-pro football player, we had a pro soccer player, we had pro triathlete, we had all kinds of total studs show up in our class. But some of these guys thought they could do it by themselves. And they end up either quitting or being run out by the instructors because it's not about the individual. And this is key for you guys. This applies to everything you do in life. Nothing you do by yourself. Everything you do with your teammates. And you lean on each other. And you gotta be there for your buddies. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, that's really what SEAL training is all about, is being there for each other. Oh, let's go back there. That's the bell right there. So when guys quit, DOR, drop on request, that's the bell they rang right there. After first phase, you go into second phase. That's my swim buddy, Dan Juleson, and myself in the lower right there. That's about 2 months of learning how to move underwater without being detected. So those are oxygen rebreather devices. They don't make any bubbles, and we work on ship attacks and things like that. This is kind of our bread and butter in the SEAL teams. There's other services that do combat swimmer, but the SEAL teams are the only service that have something called a SEAL delivery vehicle, and we'll talk about that. I have a picture of it. After second phase, we go into third phase. Third phase is all about learning about the weapons that we have in the inventory, learning about land navigation. You guys do some land nav right here on your way down to the lake, right? That's right. Land nav, of course, is important. You learn how to use technology, but more importantly, you learn how to do good old-fashioned map and compass. Because when the GPS in your car goes down, you got to be able to read a map, right? That's right. We go out to San Clemente Island. It's a small island off the coast of Southern California, and we do all our land warfare stuff out there. And then graduation, and then training's over, but really the training is just beginning. So then you go into advanced training, you go and you join your team, and you need to prove yourself for the first year that you're at the team before you're awarded the Trident or the certification to be a SEAL. That's me on bottom right. We graduated 31 originals, and we had 11 roll in from medical injuries from other classes. So 155 to 31 is an 80% attrition rate. And you get to know all the guys you go through training with really well. And then you go and you start working at the teams, and you work with teammates, and this was my first platoon, and you do everything together. I mean, everything with training, everything with work, and just about everything socially and otherwise. You're together as a team, and you get to know each other better than I would say family. And you start understanding what makes each other tick, both positive and negative. And you end up doing a lot of work together. A lot of it's hard. A lot of it is a lot of fun. But regardless, you get to know each other really well, and then personal relationships that are built on trust, that going forward, you become absolutely tight comrades with these people. That was a deployment in Afghanistan. That was a 1-year deployment. So we were in Ghazni province for a year. That's one of this is the platoon I was with when we were in Kosovo when 9/11 happened. Lots of training, lots of deployments. That's in Fallujah. I think something that a lot of guys, when you think of the SEAL teams, you think of direct action missions and getting after the enemy and busting into a house in the middle of the night and bringing somebody in to be interrogated. That's only a small percentage of what the teams do downrange. So much of what we do to ultimately get to that is based on trust and relationships with host nation and with partner nation. I understand the student body here at Riverside is made up of over 20% international partner students. And I'm here to tell you guys, maintain those relationships. Keep track of your buddies when you graduate from here. Because that friend of yours that's in Mongolia or China, you will work together again someday, somehow, some way. It might not be in the military, but those relationships that you guys are building here will influence our national strategies going forward. It's incredible. The fact that you guys are here all going through this academy together. That bottom right-hand picture, that's Musa Khan. He's the governor of all of Ghazni province in Afghanistan. None of the missions in Ghazni, none of our missions would have been a success if it wasn't for that relationship right there. So I drank all kinds of tea with this guy. Every free minute I had, I was with him. Now, he has a checkered past, but we spent a lot of time together. And the point is that that relationship resulted in a great relationship with the Afghan local police commander and a lot of other district sub-governors and all this stuff that you guys don't need to know about right now. But I'm telling you, relationships built on trust are very important in the military and outside. It's not always about hunting down the enemy. That upper left picture, that's when one of our guys needed a re-enlistment. We went on top of a hill in Afghanistan and we did a re-enlistment. Outside Ramadi, Iraq, we opened a school. And guess what? When we provided security for the school that we were opening in Ramadi, families, my first interaction with females in Iraq was when we were opening that school. And they didn't want to take any pictures, but guess who did want to take pictures? All the kids. Because none of those kids that are with me right there on the right, none of them had been in a sit-down school up until the point when the Americans helped build the school in Iraq. When I was going through some academic training in Monterey, California, I had some free time. It was a 15-month program, and a lot of my friends were still deployed downrange. I was looking for a way to kind of pay it forward. A friend of mine was the first SEAL killed in combat in Afghanistan. Fifi was his nickname, Neil Roberts. Patty, his wife, and I were friends, and I asked Patty, hey, I really want to do something in memory of Neil, something that will help surviving spouses and kids of the fallen going forward. So the two of us came up with an idea to do a fundraiser, a swim in memory of Neil. And every time you go on a deployment, you write a letter to your friends and family or your kids, just in case you don't make it back. This was part of Neil's letter. For all the times I was cold, wet, tired, sore, scared, hungry, and angry, I had a blast. The good, the bad, was equally balanced with the good. Neil Roberts. So that's what I did. I took some time off. I went to Dover, England, and brought my family with me, brought my dad, a couple friends, got a chase boat, and got a bunch of fundraising goals and swam across the English Channel. And took 12 and a half hours. That's the pilot boat on the right. And you want to talk about saying prayers? That's me saying a little prayer to God right there to help me get across this in memory of Neil right before doing it. And it's interesting that between Dover, England, and Cape Grenade, France, it's 21 miles as the crow flies. But when you do that swim, you actually go through 2 tidal shifts. And if you look, I don't know if you can see it, but it's not a straight line. It's a big curve, a big S. So 21 miles as crow flies, 37 miles over ground. And that's my dad right there on the pilot boat after the swim with me. And then after the swim, you get to go to the White Horse Pub, put your name on the wall, put a little reason why you did it, and they give you a free pint of Guinness, you get a free glass of beer. And that on the upper right, that's the phone call I made from Dover, from a British payphone to Patty to let her know that the swim was a success. So one of the coolest things I think I've ever been part of was doing that. And you know, along the way, this is the part that's important. You know, not about buds, not about being in the military necessarily, not about the channel swim, but kind of the stuff that I learned along the way that I want you guys to I want to share with you. You're going to come across people all the time in your life that are just full of natural ability. I'm sure you got a lot of natural athletes that are here. And I'm here to tell you that hard work always is going to beat out and trump natural ability. And you guys are the minority of this country and all the other countries that are recognized here, that are represented here, because you guys are willing to put in the hard work. I'm telling you, as you go continuing going through life, take that with you, because you're going to run into people that are full of natural talent all the time, and hard work beats that every time. You can't teach natural ability, but you can teach focus, discipline, teamwork. Getting over that wall, you can't do it by yourself, right? Right? But you can learn that stuff. You can learn that stuff. Never rely on natural ability. And those that are trying to rely on that for everything they do, pull them into your team, because they're going to need help later on. Be willing to learn those skills. You know, first phase of BUDS, SEAL training, negative reinforcement, that stuff works. I mean, you absolutely can train people through negative reinforcement, but when the hard times come, be an optimist. Be a glass half full guy, not a glass half empty guy. Everybody stand up. I didn't mean you guys right here. All right, cadets, sit down. Stand up. Sit down. All right, thank you. I saw a couple of you maybe getting a little heavy-eyed, so I just wanted to help you out. Hey, guys, be an optimistic teammate, okay? When things get hard, all right, and you're surrounded by friends, and you're surrounded by families, I don't mean friends and teammates that are relying on you to be a leader. Be optimistic, man. Be positive, because that's what they're looking for. When things were hard in first phase of BUDS, when things were hard in Hell Week, nobody in our boat was being negative. Everybody was being positive, trying to keep each other going, trying to make it all happen. You can apply that to everything in life. Attitude is a force multiplier. Winning, and winners never quit, that's an attitude. Apply that to everything. And when those around you see that, they will respond. They will respond. If you're the cadet who struggles and tries again and again and again, no matter how much you fail, but you never quit, to me, that's the guy I want on my team. I don't want the person that's full of natural ability who's not willing to fail and keep trying. I want the guy that fails, learns from the failures, and tries again and again and again until he succeeds. That's key. I learned that you can achieve the impossible with a few key elements. One of them, you're learning right here, discipline. That routine, that when you guys wake up in the morning and you put those hospital corners on your bed, that routine is so important. You don't realize it right now, but I'm telling you, later on in life, if you can't do the little things right, how can you be expected to do the big things? Take those routines that you're learning here and take them out of here for the rest of your life, because it applies to everything you'll do. Find a purpose, dedicate yourself to that purpose. You know, when I was in Monterey, when I was going through school and I was feeling like I wasn't part of the teams for that little over a year, I found a purpose, and it was Neil, doing something in memory of Neil. Teamwork, always have a swim buddy, always have a small team of trusted friends and brothers that you can lean on. Because if you're there for them, they'll be there for you. And whatever it is that you do with your life, whatever your focus is, be laser focused on it. Don't let anybody talk you down off your dreams and whatever you want to do. When I was in high school and I was thinking about going to the Air Force Academy, I had a family friend at a barbecue pull me aside and say, "Hey John, don't try to go to the Air Force Academy. You'll never make it. You'll never make it. You're not cut out for that. You're a surfer, skater, punk kid. You'll never make it in the military." Man, I can't tell you how much that powered me through the Air Force Academy and Butt. Hearing an adult tell me that when I was a kid, man, that fired me up. Take those little types of things and have them, use them as gas to get you through life. Attitude is contagious. This is a friend of mine, Dan Knosson. He lost both legs above the knees in Afghanistan when he stepped on an IED that went low order. Do you think Dan quit? That's right. Because we never quit, ever. You can't change the wind, but you can change the set of your sails, right? You can't change bad stuff that happens to you. You might get in a car accident, you might lose both legs. Okay. Charge on, man. Get after it. Be like Dan. You know what Dan did? He said, screw that. I want to be one of the best Paralympians that this nation has to offer. He went to Pyeongchang and he won a medal in every event that he entered. And he got a gold medal. I learned a lot of things about life from people like Dan. When you see somebody that you think has everything, and then you see them get in a traumatic accident or have something happen, they lose a limb, and they become a quadriplegic or a paraplegic, and in your mind you think, oh my God, their life's over. No way, man, it's not over. Never, ever quit, no matter what. I learned that a small group of determined teammates can have an incredible impact. When Dan lost his legs 10 years ago, we decided, and I was stationed at SOCOM headquarters at the time, 20 of us decided we were going to swim across Tampa Bay and we were going to raise a little bit of money for the Knosson family. And we did that. We made a couple $1,000s and we were proud of ourselves and everything. But those 20 people started talking to 20 more people. And they talked to 20 more people. And it grew and it grew and it grew and it became a movement. And now we're getting ready for our 10th annual Tampa Bay Frogman swim. Last year we made $600,000 for the Navy SEAL Foundation. This year we're going to make $700,000. Find a purpose that you guys want to dedicate yourself to. The Navy SEAL Foundation supports families of the fallen, especially the surviving kids and the spouses, you know. There's all kinds of drama that happens when we lose somebody, and addressing it takes money, and the foundation's incredible for that. So that, for me, that's one of my key purposes now, is to support that foundation. What I'm telling you is, as you go through life, find something that really, really gets you going, and it makes everything else so much easier. So remember the magic formula. Before I went to Bud's, my girlfriend at the time, now she's my wife, she gave me this rock, this exact rock, with that saying etched in it. Winners never quit, quitters never win. And like I said at the beginning, if nothing else, if you take nothing else away from this little short time we have together, that right there can guide you to incredible success in life, in industry, in the community, in the family, in the military. If you do that, what I like to do at this point, I wanted to keep that as short as I could, because to me the most important part sometimes is the question and answers. Ask me anything you guys want. It can be about Buds, it could be about my time in the Navy, it could be about the swim, be about family, whatever you want. What questions you guys got?
Captain Doolittle, our first question comes from the balcony up at your right.
Got it.
Cadet Seymour from India Company. My question is, during your channel swim, did you want to quit, and what motivated you?
Oh man, that's a great question. Okay. At about the 6-hour mark, in the middle of the channel, when the tides shift, the winds shift. The winds don't shift, but with the tides shifting and the wind hitting the shifting tide, you get this kind of washing machine effect in the middle of the channel. And it's not waves going one direction, it's waves hitting each other. And you get this sensation that you're not going anywhere. And I started to question myself. My shoulder was starting to hurt a lot. I wasn't even, I was only halfway across. And then I look over at the pilot boat, and I didn't know it, but my dad and Joe Walsh had snuck a flag, an American flag, on board the pilot boat. And the two of them were standing up in the wind, holding this flag. And I breathed to my right, and I look over, and I saw that flag, and I had this rush of emotions of why I was doing that swim. And I thought of Neil, and I thought of all the guys we had lost up to that point, and all the guys we were going to lose going forward, and all the families that would be affected. And that made all the pain go away. Good question. Who else? I'm going to start shotgunning.
I've got a
guys.
question. What's the water temperature in English Channel?
So it was 58 degrees in Dover and 61 degrees on the French side. So it gradually got warm as it went across. And that's the actual temperature of the Pacific at Monterey. Monterey is usually around 60 degrees. So that's a great place to train. And you can't wear a wetsuit or fins or anything like that, or else the swim doesn't count per the English Channel Swimming Association. So you can't wear a wetsuit, but you can put some Vaseline in your armpits and things like that. So yeah, it's chilly. And when your feet, I think there was a picture of my dad throwing out a water bottle out in front of me. So what we did is every 20 minutes, I'd roll over on my back, I'd grab that line, and you never want to stop moving. You got to keep kicking, because it's cold enough that if you stop moving, you'll start to go hypothermic. So you got to continue to move. Yeah, I should have said that. Thanks. Other questions?
Another question from the balcony, sir. Trey Green from India Company. Why did you become a Navy SEAL after attending the Air Force Academy?
That's a good question. So, Actually, President Bush 41, who just passed, and I was glad to see your flag at half-mast today. He was the president when I was at the Air Force Academy, and his administration, the funding resources for pilot training kind of go up and down, right? It's kind of a cycle. And for my graduating class, the administration had put out, hey, the pilot slot numbers are going to be this much. And what that meant was if I was not in the top third of my class academically or with my military performance average, that I would not be able to go pilot training. Well, guess what? I not only was I not in the top third of my class, I don't think I was in the top 93rd of my class. I was the bottom of my class. I was always in trouble. You guys march tours here?
Yes, sir.
M1 Garand with a little bit of lead in the barrel. I marched almost 200 of those at the Air Force Academy. I was what was termed as, I was a centurion, and I was well on my way to being a double centurion. But I knew I wasn't going to be able to fly because I wasn't doing well enough at the academy. So I started looking at other options. My coach and mentor that I grew up swimming under, that was my sport. I was a swimmer, if you guys didn't figure that out. My mentor was an old SEAL from Vietnam named Mike Troy, double gold medalist from 1960 Olympics. And I called him and I said, hey, Mike, I'm not going to get to fly. My grades are too bad and my military performance isn't any good. What do you suggest? He said, join the Navy. Go into teams. And that was the very first time that I had actually considered maybe going into the teams. And the more I thought on it, the more I reflected about it, the more I realized, yeah, okay, that's something you can do. And actually, if you go to any service academy, you technically can do an inter-service transfer into one of the other services. There's just a lot of paperwork and approvals you need to get, but it happens more often than you might realize.
Hey, sir.
Cadet Singh, Foxtrot Company. Sir, I just want to know, a lot of people join the military or aspire to become Navy SEALs for different reasons, maybe to serve the country or to find out what they're truly capable of. I just want to know, what reason did you find was most common through your time in BUDS?
Well, I'm gonna take that question and apply it specifically to BUDS because I was exposed to a lot of guys that were leaving training. And I was the class leader, and I would always talk to guys before they left. I mean, they were leaving, they had rung the bell, and they were going, but I always wanted to talk to. So the guys that ended up quitting to go do something else were guys that were just there because they wanted to see if they could do it. They weren't there for a purpose that was higher than what I would consider pretty low bar. The people that were there to make a difference for this country, patriotism, helping people in other countries, because before 9/11, a lot of what we focused on was partner nation capacity and building up partner nation capacity. When people would come into BUDS for that reason, that was bigger than themselves, right? Does that make sense? And I think that applies to the military at large. I think people that go into the military and think of it as a wide open capability going forward to really make a positive impact in the community and in this nation and in other nations. Those are the people that I think usually stick with it. The guys that just enlist or go to ROTC because it looks cool, it looks fun, and they want to try it out before they do something else, they usually don't stick around and maybe not even finish what they started. Good question. Thank you. We okay on time, guys?
Sir, up here on the balcony.
Yeah? Okay.
Who do you think's going to win this Army-Navy game?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Who do you think's going to win this Army-Navy game?
Come on, man. Well, I was going to say Navy right off the bat, but then I saw the uniform. I saw the new uniforms that Army's got. They're pretty gnarly looking, man. I like those. But of course I'm rooting for Navy. So yeah, Navy's going to win. Of course. I can't believe you asked that. Everybody knows it.
Sir, that's a question for you.
Yes.
The SEAL community is made up of some serious go-getters, right? I think a lot of young men in this room someday want to be a serious go-getter, whether it's in business or military or not. But you also spend a lot of time looking at families. You talk a lot about families. And the statistics, and anecdotally, those two things often don't go well together. So, in your experience, what should they be looking for in a relationship that's going to last when they want to go do something like what you did?
Whew, you got to find somebody like my wife. So, before 9/11, families didn't get very much attention, especially in special operations. When 9/11 happened, we went from a 24-month workup deployment cycle, which was 18 months of workup training and recovery and whatever else, and a 6-month deployment. Then 9/11 happened, and that 24 months became 12 months. So instead of 18 months to get ready for a 6-month deployment, we had 6 months. And of those 6 months, you were often gone a lot because the training usually wasn't right there for me in Virginia Beach. So we would travel to other places to train. And then you'd be gone for 6 months. So over the course of 12 months, you might be gone 9 or 10 months. Well, families can handle that once, twice, maybe 3 times. You start putting families through that 13, 14 times, and you got major, major issues. And what we started to see was the families that were falling apart was affecting the operators. And when the operators and shooters couldn't focus because the family issues back home, we realized we needed to really do something to help out. And that's where that last job came into play that I was at Special Operations Command, the preservation of the force and family. And that's a whole nother topic, but I will say that for me personally, the relationship with my wife and friends and family, because when you go away, it takes a village, right? So your friends kind of come around and help take care of the kids and help your wife out and that kind of thing. I could not have done this career without a support network at home, both with my wife and friends and family. For you guys going forward, everybody's different, right? You guys, some of you are going to get married, some of you are going to stay single forever, some of you will get married and get divorced and get married and get divorced. I don't know. Everybody's different, right? And some of you come from different cultures and different countries. But I'll tell you guys that for me, the most important foundation, and I said this at the beginning, the most important foundation for me were 2 things. It was my faith and it was my family. And when everything was going south downrange and things were hard and there were hard times, absolutely, there were hard times. If you have a foundation that you can lean back on, like your faith or your family, then that's awesome. That really helps you out. So make good decisions about who you guys marry. Because I know you guys are all thinking about that all the time. Good?